You know that feeling of being stuck, just waiting for something, anything, to change? Well, in the novel Neither Stone Nor Water, a simple meeting in a quiet cafe kicks off this incredible transformation. It shows us how one person's private little awakening can actually ripple out and change, well, everything. So let's dive into that journey. So where does our story kick off? In a cafe, of course. And it's the perfect setting, really. I mean, think about it. It's this unique space where you can be totally alone but surrounded by people. It's right here, with the sound of coffee cups and quiet chatter that two people who are worlds apart are about to cross paths. And this, right here, is the core question of the whole story. What in the world happens when a man who has completely stopped, who's let go of all that striving, meets a woman who feels trapped, just buzzing with this energy that has nowhere to go? As we're about to see, their meeting is the spark that lights a quiet but massive internal revolution. All right, so to really get the spark between these two, we first have to understand where they're each coming from. They're sitting in the same room, sure, but believe me, they are living in completely different universes.
Okay, let's break this down. On one side, you've got Marcus. The book calls him the man who stopped. It's like his inner engine has just shut down. He's not chasing anything anymore. Then, on the other side, there's Vera, the woman who waited. And she isn't really in solitude, is she? She's performing it. She's hiding, almost trembling with this readiness for something to happen. And that wedding ring she keeps touching? It's loose. A perfect, powerful little symbol of a life that just doesn't fit her anymore.
Now, to really get Vera, we have to talk about the cage she's living in. And listen, this isn't some obvious cage with big iron bars. No, it's way more subtle than that. And honestly, that's what makes it so much more dangerous. The novel actually gives this specific kind of poison a name: the cruelty of diminishment. This isn't about yelling or hitting. It's a slow burn, a constant, steady chipping away at someone's confidence, done through little comments and questions that, on their own, seem like nothing. But you string them together over years, they can completely take a person apart. So how does this actually play out in her life? Well, her husband, Georg, he never has to raise his voice. He just questions her opinions, until she learns it's easier to just not have them. Or he'll criticize how she looks, but wrap it up like it's a compliment. He basically built this invisible cage around her, piece by piece, with thousands of tiny comments that taught her one thing: being smart, having a mind of her own, was unattractive. And the result of all this? It's heartbreaking. Vera says it herself right here. She's forgotten who she was before him. It's like she's looking at old photos of a total stranger. That's how complete the takedown was. She's completely lost the thread of who she is. So the big question is, how do you escape a cage like that, especially when you can't even see? Well, that's where Marcus comes in. And what's interesting is he doesn't give her a 5-step plan or a bunch of rules. He offers something way more powerful, just a different way of seeing. Marcus's presence in her life is kind of like someone holding up a mirror, forcing her to ask this really fundamental question. He makes her question the very ground she's standing on, her entire identity, which, when you look at it, is just built on stories. The story of being a wife, the story of being the kind of woman she was supposed to be. And this is really the core of his whole philosophy, the idea that the self, the I that we think we are, isn't some solid thing. It's more like a character in a story we've built out of memories and expectations. Now, it's a useful story, but it's not the ultimate reality. The real you, he suggests, is the silent awareness that's just watching that story happen. Okay, so what does that actually mean? How do you use that? Well, the key isn't to fight back or try to force yourself to be different. It's just to see the pattern, to notice it. When Georg says something to diminish her, the old automatic reaction is to feel small. But what if you can find that tiny little pause, that gap between what he says and how you react? In that little gap, that's where choice lives. That's where freedom is. So armed with this totally new way of seeing things, Vera starts this journey inside her own mind. And it is absolutely revolutionary. She begins to realize something incredible. The door to her cage, it was never even locked. We can actually break her whole awakening down into 3 clear steps. Step 1, she just starts watching. She observes her own reactions to Georg not from the inside, but from a distance, like she's watching a movie. Step 2, she finds that gap we were talking about, that little space of freedom.
And then step 3, she has this huge realization that the cage was an illusion all along. It only had power because she, on some level, agreed to live inside it.
And this quote, man, this is the turning point. In her last big conversation with Georg, she admits it. She is terrified to leave. But then she says something crucial. She's even more terrified of staying, more terrified of another decade of pretending. The scales have finally tipped.
But here's the really beautiful part. Vera's story doesn't just end with her walking out the door. No, that's actually just the beginning. Her single act of courage is like a spark that starts to catch.
And you can see the ripple effect right here. It all starts with just one person, Vera. Then she shares what she's been through with her friend Helena. And of course, Helena sees herself in the story. And from those two, it blossoms into a whole movement, this Tuesday group, a whole community of women who are all starting to look at the invisible walls in their own lives.
The book has this gorgeous name for what's happening, the multiplication of light. And the idea is so simple but so powerful. Awareness is contagious. When you light someone else's candle, your flame doesn't get any smaller, right? You just get more light. Vera's breakthrough isn't just for her. It becomes a map for other people to follow.
And what's really cool is how Marcus's role changes. He never set out to be some guru on a pedestal. As this community starts to form, he becomes more like a tuning fork. He's not telling anyone what to do, he's just holding a clear note of truth, which in turn helps everyone else find the sound of their own truth. The whole thing starts to run on its own.
And that brings us to the final, powerful question the story leaves us with. It suggests that so many of the cages we feel trapped in, whether it's in a job, a relationship, or just in our own heads, are actually locked from the inside. And if that's true, well, it means we've had the keys this whole time. So the only real question left to ask is, have you checked your keys?